I'm Anna Fiore, here from Wayland Girls Soccer. Today, I'm going to be interviewing head coach of Wayland Girls Soccer, Coach Steve. How do you feel your first season coaching Wayland Girls Soccer went?
It seemed to go great. We had a good season. We accomplished most of our soccer goals. We finished ranked 16th in Division II. So we got a home playoff game, which unfortunately we lost, but that's fine. We did well in the league. The league is very tough. The competition is very stiff. And we did relatively well there. We had a good win over Westford. We tied AB. Those are all very strong teams. So yeah, successful season overall.
How do you feel you prepared for the season? What were some of your main goals for the season?
So my goals were, I wanted sort of like a signature win. I wanted to qualify for playoffs and preferably a home game, and I wanted to win a playoff game. So we got those first two. The signature win was our last game against Weston. They beat us pretty handily in the first game when we met them very early in the season. I think it was 6-1. And then we ended up beating them the last game of the season. We were up 2-0. They came back to tie it, and then we ended up winning that game. And they were ranked first in Division III the entire season, really until our game. So that was kind of a great win. They're sort of a rival, and so that was kind of our signature win. We bounced up and down in the rankings throughout the season, so I think we were as high as 10th and as low as maybe 19th. But we finished 16th, partly because of that Weston game, and then we held Wellesley. They beat us, but not by much, and they were the eventual Division I state champs. So those kind of bumped us to 16th, which got us a home game in the playoffs. And then, as I said, the other goal was to win a playoff game, and unfortunately we lost to Westfield in that first round in overtime. But beyond that, a very successful season, so certainly happy with how it went.
So you're an assistant coach before. How do you feel an assistant coach versus head coach went?
I was the head JV coach and the assistant varsity coach from 2004 to 2018. And I worked with one coach at my previous school and then 3 coaches here at Wayland. And I think just seeing how different coaches operate and the different things they do really helped prepare me. I took 4 or 5 seasons off here at Wayland. We went from an early start time to a late start time. That was part of it. My son was playing high school soccer, so I wanted to be able to see him play. In the interim, I did some other coaching, which also helped. I did a summer team that has college players on it, so that was sort of useful. I coached with a friend of mine, that team for a few summers. And so that all sort of put together to make me want to be the varsity coach and feel like I could do it. I think a lot of it was just sort of the management piece. There are a lot of things going on as a varsity coach, whether it's your other teams, sort of equipment, managing all of that. But as I said, I felt like all that experience kind of made me ready to take on the varsity role this year.
Did you have a favorite part of your varsity season this year?
I think the Weston win sort of brought everything together. I'm not sure that itself was the favorite part, but I think a lot of things came together there. In the beginning of the season, we kind of dropped some tough games. The first Weston game was one of them. Our first game was against Dover Sherborne. I think from a coaching standpoint, I perhaps went out kind of a little tactically ambitious and maybe naive. And so I think kind of correcting those things and sort of working on it as a team, we kind of built as the season went on. As I said, had some good kind of like non-wins. We went for a stretch where I think we had 4 ties in the middle of the season. That was an interesting stretch, but some of those were against very good teams. We had some good wins in the middle there against Neshoba and Grafton, who are pretty strong Division II teams. And then I think, as I said, everything sort of came together in that Weston game where we took a team that beat us pretty handily in the first game and ended up beating them in the last game of the season. So seeing everything sort of build to that Weston game, I think, was probably the best part.
When did you first know you wanted to be a coach? What led you to?
So in college, I was the manager of the women's team, and the manager is just that, the manager. There was no coaching involved. But they were a pretty high-level program. My first year, we made the national finals. We won't talk about the score of that game. We got killed in that game. But just being around that program and kind of seeing the relationships between the coaches and the players and seeing what it took to operate at such a high level, that really piqued my interest in coaching. I'd always wanted to be a teacher, and so coaching was kind of a natural outgrowth of that. And then I started at a private school where it was kind of expected that you would coach, and so I started coaching the JV team there right out of college. So I graduated in May, and I started teaching and coaching in September. I really liked it. I happened to have a pretty good team that year. A couple of players that would go on to play in college, and that certainly didn't hurt. But I basically coached every year since then. That was 1995. So I think I took a year or two off when I was in grad school, but even then I was kind of volunteer coaching here to help with the goalies. But yeah, I've pretty much been coaching straight through for almost 30 years at this point.
Before college, what was your high school career like?
So I played 11 out of 12 seasons in high school. I took the winter of my freshman year off, mostly because I was bored. I didn't have anything to do. So I played soccer for 4 seasons in high school, winter track for 3, and then baseball for 4 seasons.
Did you have a favorite sport out of the 3 of those?
Probably soccer. When I was a kid, I kind of went back and forth between liking soccer and liking baseball better. I think in the end, partly because of the World Cup in 1986 and then again in 1990, that kind of piqued my interest in soccer, and I was probably a little better at soccer. I was a first baseman in baseball because I was kind of the coordinated kid when I was real little because I could catch, but then everyone kind of grew and I did not. So I spent more time on the bench for baseball than I did on the field, certainly. Now, I ended up playing goalie for soccer, which is also a bit of a height-related position, but kind of made it work. But certainly soccer was my favorite of the 3.
How'd you start playing goalie?
So my sophomore year on JV, we had a lot of goalies get hurt. So varsity kind of pulled all the JV goalies up because they needed them. A buddy of mine kind of split duties in a game to play for JV. I sort of liked it and was half decent at it. So I ended up playing until the other goalies came back, until the varsity goalies were not hurt anymore. And then junior year, I made varsity. And the coach actually didn't tell me, but I was on the roster as the backup goalie. So I happened to see the roster, and it was like F/G goalie. And then 3 or 4 games left in the season, our goalie broke his leg. And so that was that. So I was kind of the backup goalie. I ended up playing goalie for the last, 3 or 4 regular season games, then through the playoffs. And then senior year, I kind of went full-time as goalie, went to camp the summer before senior year, and started every game and played goalie pretty much my whole senior year. So mostly successful, kind of made the playoffs, won a couple games in the playoffs and then lost at some point. And then played for my intramural team in college, which was fun, but not particularly serious. And then that was about it. I didn't really play goalie in any meaningful way after that.
In high school, did you have a favorite coach? Who and why?
Yeah, probably my freshman coach for soccer. Similar to college, I think I remember the relationships that they kind of tried to form. I certainly didn't mind my JV or my varsity coach. But again, I sort of connected best with my freshman coaches. And then one of my summer league coaches, I think that was the first coach that sort of introduced kind of tactics to me, that there were certain ways to play. I was playing sort of wing at that point, and I remember him like physically pulling my body kind of wider, on the field because I was maybe like 3 or 4 yards away from him. He just sort of dragged me. I was like, you need to be on the end of the sideline. So that was the first time I realized there were sort of better and worse, or at least different ways to kind of play on the field. Those are probably the 2 coaches that stick with me.
Nice. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us for this interview today. I'm Anna Fiore, and thank you for watching Wayland Sports Broadcasting. You can also check out the other interviews we did for this class.